Good evening, everyone. Just try that again. Good evening, everyone. One more time. Fantastic. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to ACC Race Nation here for the next round of the championship here at Spa-Francorchamps. We've got a 1 hour race in front of us. Drivers already on their qualifying laps. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be commentating, as always, on this fantastic league. I'm Jack Millington, and the drivers are already cracking on with it with this amazing circuit here in Belgium. 7 kilometres, 4.352 miles for the drivers to navigate amongst this historic circuit. We've been following Nicolas Gredin for the last couple of laps. He's been out there. He's in 19th at the moment. Good to see him back in. He wasn't present last time out at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but he is racing tonight. Let's have a scroll through the pit field and we'll see who is who this evening. I know we've got a couple of new debutants in this evening as well, so we'll run back through those. So let's go on to our return to garage. Let's have a look at the drivers at the moment. So at the moment, currently leading away on a 2 minutes 17.8, we've got Josip Kosic in the BMW M4 GT3. We've then got Mark Chapman in the Ferrari 296. He's only 3/10 away from the current pace setter, which is good to see. One of the championship contenders right in the thick of it. Stuart Packham back in this evening. He missed last week at the Nordschleife. He's in the championship leader, hoping to extend that advantage. Kevin McEntee up in 4th. This is much more like it from Kevin. He was in the battle for the race victory at Silverstone earlier this season. He's been a little bit hit and miss with his speed, but he's looking good so far in qualifying. We've got Danu apologies to Daniel there, the Spaniard in 5th place. Our reigning champion Steve Hall in 6th at the moment. In 7th, good to see him. We haven't seen him for a few rounds. Rover Rakatamanga in the Ferrari. Then we've got Michael van der Waal. He is in the McLaren. He's just coming out of the pits now. Good to see Martin van Rienen back as well in the BMW. It's Nicolas Gredin, who we've been following for quite a while, to be honest with you. He is currently sat in 10th place, so he's the last of the drivers. Last of the drivers in the top 10. And as I say that, someone has just popped up. I think it was Nicolas Gredin, who's in 11th at the moment. It's Balkanira, okay. Miroslav Grasic, he's just gone into the top 10. There will be a few changes to this list, so I do miss anybody out. That's unfortunate. We've got Danny Zoutenbayer, who's popped up to 8th place in the bright yellow Ferrari. So that's who it was, who's just interrupted that smooth run that we were just having in the standings. A little bit further back, 13th place, we've got Jeffrey Van Buren. He made his debut this season, last time out at the Nordschleife. Didn't do too badly in the end, did Big Jeff. He was 13th in the end, had some good pace, but missed out on a few opportunities. There's John Wells in 14th in the AMG, had his best race result last week, did John. We've got back in the Porsche, we've got Neil Wright. I haven't seen Neil for a few rounds, so that's good to see him. We've got, of course, Dennis Penders in the 103 Ferrari. Eden Peckman is back. We've just got another driver set a lap time. I think that's Ross Harris in the Lamborghini, who's just pulled over. Linus Littrix is back this evening. We've got a few new drivers in today as well. We've got Cosmic Crusader, or rather Cosmic Rusader, if you want to say that. That is Rich Duran in the Ford Mustang. See how he gets on with the rest of the Ford Mustang contingent. Having said that, there has been another change further up. We've got Tony Sokolov, the man who's been in form recently, had a dominant race win at Nordschleife last week. Then we've got another new driver starting tonight. We've got Froggles, 75, also known as Joe Warner. So he's in the Sky McLaren just there. Jordan Hardin in the Mustang. And of course, Scott Clark in the Ferrari 296. So let's get out there. 10 minutes remaining with the on-track action. Shame that we can't just get rid of some of the overlays, but that does happen on this game. And Tony Sokolov, probably the perfect person to ride on board with. There he is, a 2 minute 18 from the Ferrari driver. Let's ride on board with him then of a lap of this wonderful circuit. We're just coming into La Source for the first time. First gear corner in these GT3 cars. I know the F1 cars go a bit quicker, but they do have a lot more downforce. Up through the gears as he approaches turns 2, 3, 4 and 5. This is Eau Rouge and Radion. Bit of a lift from the Ferrari. Oh, kick of oversteer, gets away with track limits by the looks of it. He's up on his time as he flicks through the right-hander onto the Kemmel straight. 6th gear for the Ferrari, building up the revs. He's doing 167, 8, 9. Will he get 170? No. Excuse me. Brakes for the next couple of corners here at Les Combes, down to 2nd for Tony. So far so good as he gets on the brakes into turn number 10 at Bruel. And he downshifts to first and then upshifts to second. So Tony find a little bit more speed on the way around that corner. Then at turn 11, straightforward enough. Oh, kick of oversteer for the Ferrari man. But he gets away with that. And then he comes into this fantastic Pouhon corner. Really is a challenge in GT3 cars. Tony takes the third and then upshifts to fourth as he now gets ready for the campus chicane. Down into second gear, runs over the AstroTurf on the inside. You can get away with doing that in GT3 cars. He has lost a bit of time compared to the lap he was on before, but he seems to be gaining it back now as he approaches Stavelot for turn 15. Runs a little bit over the curb, but his exit not impacted too much, but that won't help him through Paul Frere, and that is an invalidated lap time, which is frustrating. He's going to pull over for the time being. And not only that, he's going to return back to the pit lane. So running wide at Paul Frere just seems to have cost Tony some time there. So Mr. Sokolov is going to have to get right back on it. See how he's going. Here's Danny. Well, here's the Zoutman himself. Now, Danny did a really good job last week, considering he joined really late in the race. He was actually a lap down when he rejoined the session. But he got a good result in the end, did Danny. He ended up finishing 10th, so Danny certainly had some speed. But what can the Dutch driver do? He's up on his lap time here. He's free. Oh, and he's just invalidated it at the final corner. Maybe just getting a little bit distracted by Eden Peckman in front of him. And that'll be a bit frustrating. But he'll go again. He's still got plenty of time left in this session. He's got 6 minutes and 42 seconds remaining, so quite a long way to go. Mark Chapman's still running in 3rd place. He's got Stuart Packham in front of him, not just on circuit but also in the qualifying standings as well. You can see the number 46 of Packham, he's there in 2nd, and Josip is 1st. Josip Kosic, that is, in the BMW. So going well. These three have been right up the sharp end all the way through this season. Let's see how they get on for the rest of the session. There's Dennis Penders. Big Jeff. The 187. He's just coming around a couple of corners at the moment. He's approaching what is effectively Blanchimont here. There's Jeffrey Van Buren. See how he does into these next couple of corners. He is up on his time, so this... Oh, I was going to say he's up on his time. He's just lost it on the exit of that corner, so could be finding another 10th or 2 there from Mr. Van Buren, but we'll see how he goes. Is Eden running around in the Ferrari. 20th at the moment. Still plenty of opportunities for him to improve his time. We've got 5 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. Scott Clark. Can we have a race, ladies and gentlemen, where Scott Clark doesn't have an issue with his wheel? Like, that's what we all hope for, because this guy's had nothing but trouble this season. And it'd be really nice to see him get through it without any troubles. But we shall see. There's Josip, our current qualifying pole position leader. There's Linus Littrix as well, back in the BMW. As is Stuart Packham. Martin Van Reenen. So a couple of BMW drivers on offer tonight. You take your pick. for those who are watching, who your preferred is. Neil Wright, the only Porsche driver, as he gets a kick of oversteer on the exit of, I think that is turn 9. Yeah, he's coming into Bruel now, so a bit of a kick of oversteer. So we haven't had a Porsche on the grid for a few races, but it's good to see him back in. Tony Manley has also joined the session, so it's good to have the Aston in the lobby. There's Kevin, there's Michael van der Wal, Daniel Danu. There is Froggles. Ah, that's a funny name. But Froggles, Joe Warner, first appearance of the season for him. And he goes a little bit wide there at turn 11. 24th at the moment, not set a competitive lap time. And I say competitive, that's not me being harsh, that's just there is more speed to come from the McLaren driver. So let's see how he does. John Wells back in the pits, there's Ross Harris. And we got Galactic himself, Mr. Cosmic Crusader. As I said before, Rusader. Rich Jarram. And it's a fun fact, this, but well, I say fun fact, but Rich Jarram, he has the highest number of anybody in the championship. He's 878, so he's just taken Kevin McAtee's highest number away from him. So I'm sure Kevin will be finding another McLaren at some point and trying to switch into that. There is Jordan Harding, one of the Ford contingent. He's a 10.5 down on his best effort so far. And he will have another lap after this to get a higher position in the qualifying standings. Rover Rakatamanga. Or rather, yes. The Alchemist. He is in 9th place at the moment. I haven't seen Rover for a while, to be honest with you. He was right in the sort of mid-pack when he was racing before the break. He had a 14th, he's had a 22nd, but he finished 4th at the 4th round of the season. And he's more than capable of finishing up there again. So he's in the top 10 at the moment. And he'll be hoping that he can replicate that form he showed at Imola with another good result here today. And that's a good lap from Rover Rakatamanga. That has put him on the front row. That's a fabulous effort. And I said he was capable of doing it. Well, he's just proved us all correct, hasn't he, ladies and gentlemen? Rover puts himself on the front row. Great effort. Nicola Gradan going around the track at the moment. Josip, he's done. I've just seen him come into the pits, actually. There's Josip. There's also Miroslav Grasic. He's in the pit lane. Steve out on a lap 2, but it's invalidated at the moment. So he will just need to ensure that he gets round. He's got enough time to get round and get on with it. He shouldn't have an issue, but he just doesn't want to invalidate this lap now. This is important for him. Absolutely critical lap for him coming up. He's on the effective 4th row of the grid here. And he just runs wide. So that's the end of that then. What about Tony Sokolov? The man who has been on form, completely on fire so far through the season. The Croatian coming towards the last couple of corners. He'll have time for one more lap. So he won't set a quicker lap on this effort because he's currently 1.5 seconds down. But he will go for it on this one. Danny's out and by it. He's coming towards the bus stop chicane. There'll be a couple of more cars. I think he'll get one more lap in here. Danny not going to be setting a valid lap time on this effort. Mark Chapman's done. He'll start no higher than 4th. Dennis Pender's still circulating. He's on his final lap, judging by where he is. 139. That's Nicola Gradan's going to get another lap in, as is the number 78 of Linus Littrix. And, of course, I think that's Kevin McAtee also crossing the line. That is it in terms of lap times then. I think Daniel Danu just got across the line. So that is that. Edin Peckman will go 20th then. Scott Clark is coming out again, so probably not ideal time for him. Next car coming up is the number 94. That's Martin van Reenen. Let's just return to the pit, see if we can pick him up. He's 14th. Well, he's going to stay 14th. So the next driver after him will be, effectively, Rich Jarram in the Mustang. I can't now take control of the car, so that's it. We've just got to go with it as it is. So what can Jarram do as he crosses the final line here? That's an improvement up to 10th. That's a good effort from him. What about Jordan Harding? Can he make an improvement in the Mustang? Yes, he can. That's the third row of the grid. Good effort from him. Dennis Penders has just moved up into 21st place. So far, so good for those drivers. Steve Hall, that's his lap over and done with. Jordan will be delighted with that. He'll be the fastest Mustang in the field. No Tom Creed tonight. So Jordan, one of the two drivers representing. We've got the next driver. It will be Danny Zoutenbayer, although that was very wide. He's still pushing on. So let's hope that his lap time hasn't invalidated. Next one after him will be Nicola Gridan. So we're watching Danny Zoutenbayer come through the left-hander. Oh, that's wide. And he's still going on with this lap. We can't, unfortunately, see whether this is a valid lap time. Well, he's going for it, so I'm going to assume that it is. So what can the Dutchman do as he comes across the line? He stays in 15th. So that is that for him. I'm just trying to see where Nicola Gridan is. He's run wide. That's it. It's game over for him. Kevin McEntee, 1.4 seconds off the pace at the moment, but he's in the top 10. And he will stay in the top 10. Looks like a little improvement for the McLaren driver. So it is Josip Kosic then who takes pole position with a fantastic effort around here. A 2 minute 17.3 from the BMW driver. He's 6 tenths clear of one of the main championship protagonists and the current championship leader, Stuart Packham. It's Daniel Danu in third place. And then, what a great effort this is for the man coming back after a few rounds missing. The Frenchman Rover Rakatamanga is in fourth. Then it's Mark Chapman in fifth place. Jordan up to sixth in the Mustang. Tony Sokolov in seventh place. Not used to seeing him a little bit further down, but back to earth for the Croatian. Eighth place is Steve Hall. Then it's Balkanera, aka Miroslav Grasic in ninth. Kevin McEntee round out the top 10. Following on from that, you also have the debutant of Rich Jarram in 11th. You also have Jeffrey Van Buren on row 6 in 12th place. Nicola Gridan and Martin Van Reenen are in 13th and 14th respectively. Danny Zoutenbayer and then of course Michael van der Waal in 15th and 16th. Neil Wright and John Wells occupy row 9 with Ross Harris and Edin Peckman rounding out the top 20. Unfortunately, we can't scroll any further back. So I cannot tell you who is outside of the top 20, which is a bit of a shame. Jordan has left a comment. The man who's in 6th place said, that didn't go too badly considering I've had about 10 minutes practice and qualifying. Well done, Jordan. You deserve a cookie for that one. But the drivers now will just be getting themselves lined up and ready for this evening's session. Got a couple of people who were unable to join in for the proceedings tonight. Ben Barney was one of those. Misha Mellis, who we haven't seen sadly for a few weeks since round 2. And probably the biggest driver not here is Tom Creed. The man who drives the Mustang GT3, 6th in the championship. He is not here tonight. But there will be a huge championship fight going on. Whilst we wait for the session to count down, just to give you an idea of the championship standing, Stuart Packham leads on 113 points. That is the number 46 BMW. Jordan Harding is second on 105. Third is Steve Hall on 104. Fourth is Mark Chapman on 103. Daniel Danu is also on that figure. Tom Creed is 6th, as is Josip Kosic. Both of them on 100 points each. Then a little bit further back, you've got Tony Sokolov in 8th place and 89 points. Dennis Pender's 9th on 81. And Simon Whiting, who we haven't seen for a few races now, sadly, he is just inside the top 10. And thanks to his fantastic race last week, John Wells is in 11th place in his Mercedes AMG GT3. Lots of comments coming in. Mark Chapman, game on, big field. Could be interesting trying to tiptoe around here. Jeffrey Van Buren saying, good luck everyone. Thanks for the comms in advance. Thank you very much, friend. So, if you're new to ACC Race Nation, just to make you aware, we do have a formation lap. So I'm just trying to flick through the drivers. Unfortunately, I can't flick to them number by number. I have to do it at random because of the way that ACC's director mode works. But we have a formation lap, and then we will have a 1 hour race around Spa. So the drivers will get the chance to fire the engines up now, hopefully, fingers crossed. And I'm sure, there we go, Kosic is on his way. So can Josip put on a championship charge? He did win at Imola. It's the only top 3 result he's actually had this season for the Swede. But this is his opportunity to tackle the drivers in front of him in the Drivers' Championship. Certainly all to play for here. So Josip just weaving the tyres up. He's got the whole pack behind him. In fact, he's quite a bit of a distance in front of the whole pack. He's actually just slowed down just to help them get a little bit closer too. Let's just look at his rear spoiler. Yeah, he's quite a few lengths in front of Stuart Packham at the moment. I think Stuart's deliberately going slower just to wind his friend up. It's all part of the racing psychology, ladies and gentlemen. It's what the drivers do to try and get some form of psychological edge. One thing to also make a note of, it is a rolling start, as it would be in the GT3 Championship, so hopefully we'll all get through relatively okay. If you're wondering as well in terms of how quick these drivers are compared to the standard set by racing GT3 real world drivers, the fastest lap in that qualifying session just then was a 2:17 from Josip, and the fastest lap in real life in the GT3 category was by Marco Mappelli last year in the 24 Hours of Spa, and he did a 2:16.1. So these guys quite on the money when it comes to their speed around here. There's someone that's just had a weird glitch into the pits, but they're back on track now, so it must have been an error. But the driver's not far away from that pace at all, so it's showing you the competitiveness of this league. And I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to this 1 hour race because, first and foremost, from a personal perspective, Spa's a fantastic track. There's lots of opportunities for drivers to put pressure on, and it's not a forgiving circuit either. It's very easy to make a mistake around here. And the other element behind it is that I'm only doing a 1 hour commentary this evening. Last week I did 2 hours, and that was quite tough around the Nordschleife. But that was off the back end of working till 7 o'clock for my own job outside of commentating. So tonight I've had a little bit more time to have a breather. When I say I've had a bit more time, I mean I've had 10 minutes more than what I did last week. I should be able to save my voice a little bit more. But you see now the drivers getting themselves into position. I'm really fascinated to see how the Frenchman Rover Rakatamanga, he's just in the background there in the red Ferrari. I'm really excited to see how he gets on, because we didn't broadcast round 4, unfortunately. Didn't get the chance to see his 4th place live, but I want to see what he does. He's a bit of he could be a fly in the ointment today for the drivers who wouldn't maybe expect him to be up there. But I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for all the drivers today. We want to see a great race. I think Rich Durham has returned to the pits, which is unfortunate. But we are getting ourselves ready for the start of this race. I must make it clear to everybody, yes, the start-finish line is coming up right now, but that's not where the drivers get released. Although Josip did slow down just momentarily for that point. The actual start-finish line is on the other side of the track, so where the 878 is on your screen on the left-hand side. It's just before then. Pit lane is also feeds out at the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. We'll see that as well as we go through the race, because every driver will need to make a mandatory pit stop. But then here we go. We're getting ready. We've got Scott Clark going forward. We've got Linus Littrix there as well. We'll see how he gets on this evening.
Green light, show them what you got.
Off we go then towards the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. We've got the BMWs leading the way so far. Looks like Kosic has done a good job so far. We're at the back of the group here with Scott Clark. All looks relatively clean as they come over the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. I'll try and get the external cameras, but Kosic has got a little bit of an advantage over the gang behind. I think Rover Rakatamanga's got himself up to third. I'm just going to flick through the drivers, see what's going on in the midfield. We're following Martin van Reenen. All looks a bit busy. Oh, we do have a spinner. I think that's Michael van der Waal who's gone round. There's a brief yellow flag. Martin van Reenen trying to go up the inside of Nicola Gradan. That was a optimistic look up the inside going into Bruel, but we live to tell the tale, ladies and gentlemen. There's Neil Wright in the Porsche. He's been hit from behind. He's got damage at the back already, so I hope that doesn't affect him too much. But he has had a decent start. He's in front of John Wells, and they were together on the grid. Tony Manley is there in the Aston as well. He was going really well last week, Tony, at the Nordschleife, but sadly it didn't work out for him because of a disconnection. Kevin McAtee inside the top 10 where he qualified. That is what he wants. He's pressuring Jeffrey Van Buren. He's not going to look up the inside. He is going to look up the inside. Got to give each other room, gentlemen. They just about lean on each other. Here comes Nicola Gradan. He will take a place, and Jeffrey Van Buren has gone and lost 2 positions as a result of that little bit of contact. I think he was surprised. And now Van Buren has got Miroslav Grasic right alongside him. Try and catch it from this angle. You can see back here, and he has to... Oh, slot him behind, but he runs wide. That's John Wells going wide, I think, as well. Further back, actually, it wasn't. It's Martin van Reenen on the inside in the BMW. We're watching it from this perspective, because if we flick away from the action, it won't give us the right driver, as demonstrated. There's the recovering Michael van der Waal. There's Daniel Danu, who has been overtaken by Rakatamanga. So the Frenchman up to 3rd place. We've also got Joe Warner at the back of the field. Oh, John Wells has gone backwards, so something's happened to him on lap 1. And we've also got another yellow flag just in front of us. Someone's had a half spin. Ross Harris is in the pits. And Jordan Harding still running in 6th place, but there's a gap between him and the group in front already. So we're having splits in the field. We're leading this 6-car train. It's Martin van Reenen just a little bit off the back of this group in his own singular sect, let's call it that. It's right on board with Jordan. Oh, Miroslav Grasic has gone round on the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. And it looks like there's a problem as well for Rich Durham. But you can see on board with the Mustang, one of its key strengths, and we talk about this every week, is its straight line speed. The other cars that are behind him, the Ferraris, the McLarens, they are going to be a lot quicker, in theory, in the mid-section of this race. So we're coming into what is Pouhon right now. And the cars behind him should have a little bit more grip, theoretically, but this Mustang's very fast. It's going to be hard for Steve Hall and Kevin McAtee and the rest of the group behind, including Tony Sokolov, Nico Dan. I think, if that camera angle stays with us for a little bit longer, if we can look back, that's Jeffrey Van Buren into the back of Nicola Gradan. So that's an interesting group. See how Jordan carries on for the rest of the race. Rover Rakatamanga's just lost a spot back to Daniel Danu. So the Spaniard and the Frenchman swapping places. And Mark Chapman is right there behind. In fact, he's right. You can see him. He's coming all the way through. Is this going to be an opportunity? I don't think it will be. And sure enough, the Ferrari remains in front, almost running into the back of Daniel there. And in fact, I think this group have had a... Whilst we were watching Jordan, I think this group have had a little fight because Jordan Harding and the group behind have just closed that gap down. Yeah, look at the gap there. Jordan's last lap was 6 tenths quicker than Mark Chapman and Rover Rakatamanga. So that group's closed up again. That could become a 9-car fight. Scott Clark is in the pits, and it's such a shame for Scott. I wish he could get his pedals sorted or his wheels sorted, because he just has technical issues all the time. Ross Harris is also in the pits, so I don't know if he had damage. He did have damage. He's got back out there, but he will now be a lap down already. Let's have a look through the rest of the field. There's Miroslav, so he's going into the pit, so he got damage, and I think that's a car going backwards down the field. I think that's Tony Sokolov, and I think, yes, I was right in saying, I think Rover Rakatamanga was just rejoining the circuit there, just about in front of Mark Chapman, but that group has now closed up. Interesting choice that Rover Rakatamanga has Nissan gloves and is driving a Ferrari. I don't think the sponsors would be too pleased with that if this was day life. And that's another yellow flag. I think it's Joe Warner who's gone round, and I think Jordan Harding's gone round as well. So I was looking just then, I was a bit confused by the gap that we once had suddenly become a whole meld of cars, and I didn't see a big Mustang there, and that's because the big Mustangs are at the back of the pack. So Jordan Harding's gone round, we didn't see that. That is a shame. There's Grasic now in the pit. So it takes such a long time to serve your pit lane stop here. And Steve Hall is going a little bit slowly. He's down to 14th, so he's got damage. I wonder if him and Jordan Harding have had contact. Because looking at the front of the car, I mean, it doesn't look like there's any visual damage, but there clearly is, because Steve Hall is driving very slowly. So I can't see any damage. I'm just wondering. Actually, I'm just looking at his throttle. So Steve's feathering the throttle at the moment, and I wonder, is he waiting for Jordan? Surely not. I mean, if he is, it's an incredible amount of sportsmanship from the Ferrari driver, but I would be shocked. There goes Scott Clark. He's unlapping himself. I'm keeping an eye on the grid as well. And he goes through. And Steve Hall goes back up to speed. And he doesn't go into the pit. So that must have been the incident then. So Steve must have turned Jordan Harding around, and very good sportsmanship from the reigning champion. He has elected to let Jordan back through. So he's... Yeah, that's I've not seen that to such an extent before. So fair play to the champion from last year. See how he gets on. We've got Neil right round, I think, at the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. We'll stay on board with Steve here. We just want to see the Porsche coming back on track. See if we can get to the car. Dennis Pender's in a fight there with Michael van der Waal. These two are always, interestingly enough, together on track. They always find time for each other. Must be some sort of synergy between the two that they have. And yeah, that's quite interesting, really. I don't know whether that's just because the two of them have a rivalry in the form of Belgium versus Netherlands, but there we are. Jeffrey Van Buren in the pits. Eden Peckman's moved his way through the field. He's had a good race so far, has Eden. He qualified, I think I'm right in saying, outside of the top 20. He's running in 13th place. So great effort from him. Scott Clark just getting back on circuit, clearly having some issues. There's our race leader, the number 9 of Josip, at the front, 1.5 seconds clear of Stuart Packham. Linus Littrix is also racing this evening. I said before we hadn't seen him for a while. He's been turned around by Miroslav, and that is the BMW into the gravel trap. How quickly can the Swede rejoin? He's just getting himself up to gear. Can he get going? Yes, he can. He's going to rejoin in 18th place. I think the race stewards will be having a word with Grasic after that one. There's Stewart in second place. We're 10 minutes down in this race. There's been so much action already so far. Martin Van Reenen in the top 10 as well. He's got Ross Harris a lap down behind him. There's Neil Ratton. Yeah, there's a lot of damage to that Porsche. Sadly, the 992 has been in the wars and he's got his hazards on, which says a lot about the state of that car. And sadly for Neil, it'd been going really well for him. He'd had a good few laps under his belt, but we didn't see what happened. I don't know if there's been contact, but he's clearly smashed into the barriers at the top of the famous corner really hard, and that's him peeling into the pits, and that's a long trundle around this track, it has to be said. Tony Manley running in 14th. There's Kevin McEntee. I'm looking around the track now as I think that's Michael van der Waal, who's just gone round at Les Combes. He's got going again. Nice little fight here between Rakatamanga, Chapman and Kevin McEntee, who we're following as he runs a little bit wide there at Pouhon. They've got Tony Sokolov about a second further back. So that group that was a sextet before, 6 drivers, has now branched into Daniel Danu being on his own and 4 drivers as a quartet, almost. Sokolov certainly has the speed to keep up with the guys ahead of him. He's shown that in the last couple of races, but at the moment he's got to find a second, and that's not the easiest challenge around this infamous circuit. And Michael van der Waal definitely has been into the wall. Oh, that's going to be in the wall again. Yeah. We joined him at, for his sake, the wrong time, sadly, but the McLaren, that's going to be damage for him, and I suspect he'll be heading to the pit lane. I suspect he'll be heading to the garden centre after that lawnmower excursion. And for anyone of the admin who are watching this, probably a warning or a penalty. There's Daniel Danu. 3rd place for him so far. The Spaniard has been having a really... I don't want to say too much. I don't want to jinx any of the drivers, but he's been having a real good spell of form this season. You know, he didn't have the best of races at round 2, where he finished 16th, but his form since then, he's not finished outside of the top 7. He's been fantastic. He had a podium at Imola. He was running really well in the Nordschleife. He had a couple of mistakes in the end, but he is one who's been doing really well. I think that was Rich Jarram almost unlapping himself there, which I don't think Danny would have appreciated too much. But the Spaniard, another great drive in the opening 12.5 minutes. See if he can continue this up. Scott Clark has stopped out on track again, so will Scott Clark ever be able to have a race where he's running inside the top 10? That's what I dream to see. First appearance this season for Joe Warner. I think he's had a few issues so far, but not to slight that against him. He is running. He's out on track. I think he's gonna get unlapped here by Jeffrey Van Buren. There he goes in the bright green Ferrari. Although, having said that, he wasn't interested in letting Van Buren through, but then he does let him squeak back through. So the McLaren just getting up to speed. See how he gets on through the rest of this race. We're a quarter of the race down almost. John Wells has found his fellow Nordschleife friend of Jordan Harding right with him. But I think these two today are in slightly different races. I think that Jordan, we'll have to find out from him what exactly happened. But the one thing for Jordan that he needs to be aware of is, following this AMG Merc, is that this Mercedes is very quick also in a straight line. But the Mustang clearly showing a good turn of speed as we approach Blanchimont. See how confident they are through that corner. Jordan runs very wide. And will he go for a move up the inside? No, he does not. Stays there for now. We actually got on board this time with Jordan instead. I am also watching the battles across the circuit. It looks quite close with Rakatamanga's group. Just see if I can... There we go. I said it was close. It's very, very close. Up the inside goes Kevin McEntee. And that is 4th place for the McLaren. And it should be Mark Chapman now right up behind. So I think there's been a few changes of position there. I think Kevin McEntee has got past Chapman earlier. That move's been sorted. Now, can Jordan Harding get past the Mustang, the Mercedes AMG in front of him? The answer to that is going to be a no. That Mercedes is showing and proving to be quite a tough customer to get past. And once again, it seems to be that John always seems to find himself, and this is John Wells we're talking about in front of us in the Mercedes, always seems to find himself in trouble this season on the first lap. I don't know why he attracts many other people, whether that's due to his magnetic personality, who knows. But the point of the matter is that he always seems to get involved in something, and 99 times out of 100 it's not his fault. So John's just going to have to try and maintain this position, but Jordan will be frustrated because he knows he's quicker than this car in front of him. Just can't find a way through yet. Now, I think we've got... Yeah, I am right in saying that's Rich Jarham. Oh, Rich Jarham's going to have a huge accident on the exit of Blanchimont. He's into the wall again. And that is a spectacular accident for the second of the Mustangs. He'll probably return to the pits, I think, with the damage for that. Yellow flag in front of us, and yeah, that's just confirming Rich Jarham has put it into the pit lane. These four still together on track. And Kevin McEntee, after getting past Rakatamanga on the last lap, he's not pulling away, but not being closed in just yet by the Ferrari driver. McLaren does have a slight advantage, I think, of top line speed, but the problem is that the slipstream around here is quite powerful, and Rakatamanga getting up to 170 miles an hour there in his car. Nicola Gradan we were briefly on board with. He had a lot of coverage before commentary officially started. Miroslav Grasic, we have to find out what happened to him. He was another one on the opening lap who just got caught up, sadly, in an incident. Not in the opening lap, the early phases of this race. That's a shame. There's Steve Hall. So he's now, after having that incident with Jordan, who's just in front of us here, he's now trying to make his way back up through the pack. And we'll see how he gets on. Tony Sokolov has joined the group in front of him, so he's within 0.6 of a second now of Mark Chapman. Little bit of a kick of oversteer from the last week race winner. The Croatian certainly putting as much effort into it as he possibly can. Well, last week Danny Zoutenbayer finished 10th, and look where he is right now, ladies and gentlemen. He's in 10th again, and he's got quite a gap to Edin Peckman in 11th place. So, provided he doesn't keep running over track limits too much, he could be on for another fantastic result here. Still 20 minutes gone in this session almost. You know, still 40 minutes remaining. So it can all change from here, but it's just, this is the part of the race where it just settles down a little bit, just has a moment of calm. Unless you're in this group. I was saying that Tony Sokolov had rejoined that group. He's now... Let's have a look behind me. Yeah, there you go. Tony Sokolov has dropped a bit of time. He's closer to Nicola Gradan now than he is to Mark Chapman. And I think one other element is that Kevin McEntee has closed the gap down to Daniel Danu. So there could be a fight for the podium here. We'll see how that develops. There's Dennis Penders in 12th place. He's got a bit of damage to the front of his car. His top speed a lot slower than everybody else, 163, but is that affected by the damage he's got to the front of the car? That's the true question here. Adam Petman 11. Let's have a quick run through of where the drivers are then. So Josip Kosic leads the way. He's got Stuart Packham in second place, the current championship leader, but these two are in a league of their own at the moment. Then it's the Spaniard of Daniel Danu. He's got Kevin McEntee closing the gap down in the 720S McLaren. Rover Rakatamanga had a little bit of a wobble at times, but the Frenchman in the top 5 doing a good job. He's got Mark Chapman right with him. Such a shame that we can't get rid of the track map for whatever reason. I can't seem to clear it. But Mark Chapman running a little bit wide there at Blanchimont and just takes all the momentum away from him that he had. Tony Sokolov in 7th. It's Nicola Gradan in 8th place. Martin van Reenen having a quiet race on his own so far in 9th. Danny Zoutenweier, he's in 10th. It's Eden Peckman in 11th with Dennis Penders and Tony Manley closing the gap down. That Aston Martin looking very slippery in a straight line. We'll try and come back to that battle when it comes onto the main straight. John Wells still has Jordan stuck behind him. Good job from the Mercedes man. And Steve Hall is also in the mix with this too. There's Linus Littrix, he's a bit further back on his own. And then we come on to the newcomer. We have Joe Warner in 8th place. Ross Harris is 19th. Miroslav Grasic is 20th with Jeffrey Van Buren in 21st. Michael van der Waal in 22nd. Neil Wright in 23rd. And we've got Steve Hall in the pits. I'll come back to that in a moment. And I think Scott Clark and I'm just a little bit baffled by why Rich Duram is in the middle of the pit lane, but they are currently in the pits. Whether they will come back out is another matter. So looking to see if the Aston Martin can make a move on the inside of Dennis Penders. No, the Italian decides better of it. Ooh, Linus getting that all wrong, and that's because he was letting Jeffrey Van Buren unlap himself, which makes a lot more sense. Here's Stewart in second. He's doing his absolute best to try and charge down his good friend in front of him. Stuart was saying to me that he also races a BMW on the PC leagues. He's got an M4 GT3 just like he's running right now. He runs a bit more of a long tail variant, sort of inspired by the famous 1995 Le Mans winning McLaren entry with the as a cracking team actually that who won Le Mans in 1995. For those that don't know the story, if you're relatively new to endurance racing, 1995 kind of saw an upset in the fact that it was the McLaren team in the GT1 category had actually won it rather than the open race class. So I think that day it was JJ Leto, Yannick Dalmas, and off the top of my head I want to say it was Sakia, the Japanese driver for Kokusai Kaihatsu Racing. That's the car that Stuart Packham races, effectively inspired by that livery, which is really, really cool. So Stuart out there on track at the moment, giving it his utmost, and He's got 2.5 seconds to joss it, but a well-timed pit strategy call here could bring him back into play. You know, it's not as if he's lapping slowly. He's doing 2 minute 18s. There's a yellow flag, and oh, that's a disqualification for Rich Jarham. I think he was facing the wrong way, which is less than ideal. But yeah, 2:18.6 from Kostic on that last lap, and a 2:18.5 from Spa-Francorchamps. So they're circulating at a very similar speed at the moment. Martin van Renen still on his own. Neil Wright, sadly, definitely on his own. The Italian of Tony Manley has been staring at the back of Dennis Penders the last couple of laps. But can the Aston Martin find a way through? It's like Dennis isn't struggling in the corners. I just wonder if he's running a little bit more downforce compared to the Aston Martin. I mean, I can see that the Belgian has got a little bit of damage. He'll want to put on a show for his fellow Belgian fans. Can Dennis do that? He's under a lot of pressure here from this Italian driving Aston Martin. It's going to be a challenge. Oh, he runs a little bit wide. Just to make a point as well that Dennis is the only Belgian in the field, so this is his chance to put a show on for his local fans and spectators and fellow national brethren. Tony Manley going down through the gears. I am watching a little bit further on the track map. I'm looking to see that Mark Chapman's quite close. I think he's got past Rover Rakatamanga actually. Yeah, that looks like that car's in front. We'll cut back to it, but look at Tony Manley. He's all over the back of the Ferrari, and I think the Ferrari might be running a bit of damage here. You see that the Aston's so quick in a straight line. This is his chance now. That Ferrari just seems to take a better line, seems to ride the curves a little bit better. And now you can see that the slipstream's just not, he's not close enough. 170 miles an hour, but he just can't get close enough. So we'll see whether Tony Manley can do anything about that. He runs a touch wide at Les Combes. Kevin McEntee's fourth. He's got Mark Chapman, so I was right. The Ferraris have swapped places, so Rakatamanga in 6th position at the moment. We are coming up to pit stop, so a well-timed one would certainly see a change in the order. That's a stop and go penalty for Linus Littrix, which is frustrating enough because a stop and go is bad enough for 30 seconds, but this pit lane is immensely long. It goes halfway around the circuit. I think Stuart Packham's in the pits, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, he is. Stuart Packham has put his car into the pit lane, so he's trying to do the undercut. Kevin McEntee must have heard me. He's doing the same strategy as well. And to whoever has just followed me during the stream, thank you so much. That means a great deal. But Kevin McEntee has decided to pick up on that strategy too. You can see the BMW just in front, it blurs ahead of us. That is Stuart Packham also in the pits. So critical laps this for the race lead and for the podium fight. How do Josip Kosic and Daniel Danu respond respectively to their undercutting rivals? I think Danu is having a great race at the moment, but this next lap will be crucial to him maintaining a spot on the podium. Running in 17th place. So far so good for Joe Warner. Hope he can keep that up. John Wells and Jordan Harding having a bit of a side-by-side. Now I'm just following this because Jordan looked very close then And can the man who's running in second in the driver's standings, can he get past John Wells? That's a good line from the Mustang. Can he keep that momentum going though? He's been waiting for a while for a really close opportunity. The Mustang is inching towards the rear spoiler, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. And the answer to that question is in fact correct. He's not close enough. He just can't make his way through. And I feel that whilst I know that Jordan has a conventional strategy that he sticks to, I feel that he could have done what Steve Hall did and pitted and undercutted the Mercedes of John, who's doing a great job keeping everybody behind him, but it's going to harm Jordan's race in moving back through the field, as we have the cleared pit stop of Kevin McEntee has just cleared his, let's say, cleared his stop go, it looked like then. Now, just to make a note, Josip Kosic, as we move halfway into this race, that's Rover Rakatamanga going to the pit lane. Josip, as I was saying, Josip Kosic, our race leader, hasn't stopped so far, and nor has Daniel Danu. So clearly these guys are feeling that they've got enough speed to hold off the charges of Stuart Packham, and of course, as well as that, Kevin McEntee. But he's got a, actually that's what flashed up on the screen, didn't see it quickly enough. Kevin McEntee's got a stop go penalty, and that sadly will spoil any chance of him getting a podium or even potentially a top 10 this evening. He'll be kicking himself with that. That is a shame. We saw a lot of people getting drive-through penalties and stop goes last week as well. It just seems to happen. People are very keen to get as much time gained as possible in the pit lane, but realistically over an hour race, just take a little bit more steady. You can make that time back up. Following Steve Hall, he pitted earlier and has just set a new fastest personal best on that last lap. So clearly, stopping before Jordan Harden and John Wells has made a difference. Tony Sokolov is in the pits as well. That's brought Danny Zautenpire up into the top four. What a story. The Sunshine Yellow, I'm going to call the Ferrari. The Sunshine Yellow. Great job so far. Can he hold on? Can he finish in the top 10 again? That would be a really great result. I'd be very, very impressed if he could manage to hold on to that. Because I was impressed with his 10th place last week when he was a lap down when he joined the session, but another 10th would be really, really good. Mark Chapman, after his pit stop, he is circulating in 7th. There's Penders now in the pits. I think that's Jordan as well. Jeffrey Van Buren, he's cleared his pit stop, as has Eden Peckman. So we're in a bit of an unknown now. It's a case of where will the drivers who haven't yet stopped, where will they feed out? And there is one of them. Josip is right here. He's coming down this pit lane. He's still got to go into his box, and then once he's got into his box, he's still got to go from there. So quite a ways yet still left remaining. And now he pulls in. So how quick is Stuart Packham on this lap? You could see the number 46 is just coming through Blanchimont at the moment on the little indicator. Danny Zautenpire is into the lead, ladies and gentlemen. What a great time to be alive. The Dutchman is doing a great job. He's still got to make his pit stop, of course, so he won't keep that lead as Kevin McEntee clears his stop and go, but that's going to have done a whole heap of damage. There's Linus Littrix. There is Stuart Packham. So let's follow the M4 driver. Can he emerge in front of Josip. I could just see the number 9 is now starting to move out of the pit lane. He'll be getting up to speed. And there you can see him. He's just up the hill. I think he's going to emerge in front of Stewart. He certainly will, but will Stewart have the overspeed? This is the question. 157 miles an hour. Josip's doing 150 now. He's going to stay in front, but that gap is a lot closer than what it was before the pit stops. It's 0.3 of a second. Josip's still getting his tyres up to temperature. Let's ride on board with Packham. He's all over this back. A rear spoiler of Kosic. Is he going to look to the inside at Bruel? He's looking, but Kosic covers it. 25 minutes to go, ladies and gentlemen, and the race battle for the lead is kicking off into turn 11. Nice line. That's tyres are still getting up to temperature again for Josip, but he should be okay now. He'll put a lot of load into the right tyres through Pouon, which he is doing. He's just being a little bit cautious, I think. Just doesn't want to throw it off the road, which is so easy to do on cold tyres, especially in GT3 cars. Down into Campus. Stewart just looks like he's just got that little bit more momentum. He knows what his car's doing. He's had a good couple of laps to get it back into the operating window. And this is a race victory fight, ladies and gentlemen. Currently they're fighting over third position, but it is the net race lead that they are positioning themselves for. We can see that the BMW is closing again. Good line from Packham, but I just don't think he's going to be close enough. Although he looks to the inside, he's just throwing some moves on Josip. He's just trying to make Kosic feel uncomfortable. Both of our two race runners at the front of Danny Zoutenbayer and John Wells, they are in the pit, so these two will be fighting for first place when they come around this corner. But that's a nice exit from our race leader. He just about pulls away from the British driver. It's Sweden versus Britain today for the race victory. And I think Stewart is not going to be close enough. So we will keep a vested interest on this fight, because I reckon it will rumble on for the next 23 minutes. He's right there, but he's not going to find a moving overtaking spot there. Martin van Reenen has emerged in front of Tony Sokolov during the pit stops. Oh, he's got that a little bit wrong. He was in front, he is no more. He is back down to 10th place. But would he get in front of Danny Zoutenbayer and John Wells? I think the answer to that is a comfortable yes. So that moves him into 8th place. He'll do well, Martin, to stay on the back of the Ferrari. Right on board with the BMW driver, actually. Let's go with the helmet cam. Ferrari, not bad in a straight line. BMW does struggle from time to time. And that's a stop-go penalty for number 102, and that's Danny Zoutenbayer, and I've just been praising him. He's just picked up a stop-go penalty. That's such a shame. Well, that's his top 10 gone then. Commentator's curse, unfortunately. Neil Wright is steadily moved up the field. He's 21st. He's 8 seconds behind Michael van der Waal. That was an operati song, and again the commentator's curse strikes immediately for the Porsche driver. Keeps it out of the barrier though. He'll carry on. He'll still score some points where he is. Tony Manley running in 12th position. Going quite nicely for the Italian. Kevin McEntee, this is what a stop-go penalty does to you, ladies and gentlemen. He was in the fight for the podium and he's 18th. So it does have a huge impact around this circuit. That pit lane is ridiculously long, but unfortunately it was a mistake. He'll have to dust himself off, but better performance today from Kevin. It's good to see it from him. Let's hope he can demonstrate that again next week, and whether today he can make up any more space. He's not far from Miroslav Grasic, so he could still get to 17th. Ross Harris is 10 seconds up the road. That might be out of reach, but Never say never. There is Michael van der Waal, actually. Daniel Danu. Well, he's almost 4 seconds clear of Mark Chapman now. The Spaniard can't afford to be thinking about a race result of a podium just yet. He's still got 20 minutes remaining. There's still a third of this race to go. He can't be thinking just yet about a podium because he's only got 4 seconds, like I said to Mark Chapman. So still not over. These two, oh, well, I said he can't be thinking about it. They're all getting in his way. Michael van der Waal and Jeffrey Van Buren having their own race have just completely missed the blue flags, and well, the gap was 3.4. It's not anymore to Mark Chapman, is it? It's 2 seconds. That'll spur the British driver on to try and catch the Spaniard. Still circulating. Good to see Joe Warner, 22nd. He's made his pit stop as well. He's on. Well, he's just about to pop around the next corner and he'll be on the 15th lap of his race. I think he did get caught up in an incident earlier, did Joe. John Wells running in 12th place. He's closing up to Tony Manley, I think. Because Tony's only 4 seconds up the road. And he's got Dennis Penders between himself and Jordan Harding. So Jordan has now got a car to try and overtake, and the Belgian will not be passed easily on his home circuit. Ross Harris's run of misfortune has been quite prominent actually in the last few races. It kind of all started, you know, he had a really good opening race of the season. He finished 5th. For those that don't know, the first race of the season, crikey, we're going back 6 weeks effectively. But in any respect, the first round of the season we had was at Zolder. He did really well then, but since then he's just had a lot of bad luck. You know, Silverstone didn't go right for him. Bathurst, he crashed out, and he was running on for a podium in Bathurst. Imola was a problematic race as well, as we've just seen the 102 of Danny Zoutenbayer clear his stop-go penalty. You know, and then Nordschleifer just hasn't been Ross's season, and that's not a reflection of him. He's been really unfortunate. And today's race just has kind of gone the same way again. But let's hope next week, when the drivers head over to my home circuit of Alton Park, let's hope that it plays out a little bit better for him around that circuit. Jordan has found himself in a Ford Mustang train again. aka he's at the back of it, watching what's going on in front of him. And he's got Dennis Penders and John Wells in front of him. Just watching at the moment to see whether Dennis can have a look at attacking John Wells for 12th place. And Josip Kosic, just in the meantime for the race lead, has pulled a little gap on Stuart Packham. Stuart Packham as well was saying to me earlier in the week that he's the E-Seniors champion. And he's 50 years old. So well done to Stuart for surviving for 50 years. But currently 16 minutes and 50 seconds to go in this fight. I feel this fight will go on for a little bit of time. We'll come back to it, because there's quite a big group of cars all together a little bit further forward. I think there's some lapped cars in the mix of this. So yeah, you got Daniel Danu, who's now only a second clear. That's a drive-through for track limits for Miroslav Grasic. But as I was saying, you know, Mark Chapman's closed the gap down to Daniel Danu. It's 1.4 now, so the Ferrari really putting the fix on the McLaren driver in front of him. And Danny Zoutenbayer is just going to try and stick with Mark Chapman and see what he can gain out of this, but he's 18th, which is a shame. Sunshine yellow Ferrari was on for a top 10 earlier. There is Mark Chapman for that matter. You can see Daniel Danu in front of him. He can't any... Well, I was about to say he can't anymore because the Spaniard just disappeared off the screen for a second there. Thankfully he hasn't disconnected. We are carrying on. And Dennis has got past John Wells, or has he? There's the Mercedes alongside him. They're going to be side by side into La Source. They're going to give each other enough room, just about, and the Ferrari squeaks on through. And Jordan is trying to look at a move. And he can't get past the Mercedes. This is going to be Jordan's race, I feel. They all seem to gain quite a lot of time. And then Penders, wow! I don't know if that's a planned buzzing of the limiter for the Belgian, but he got an incredible run out of Eau Rouge and Radion. Jordan shaping a move for the inside for what must be the 5th time in this race, unfortunately, but Jordan now has his sparring partner back with him in the battle for 13th place. And the other thing that I was saying before is that Jordan should have pitted earlier. This rings true because Steve Hall, who was in that fight with John Wells and Jordan earlier, is now 9th and he's 28 seconds ahead. So that's how much time he has lost. There's a yellow flag briefly at Eau Rouge. I think Kevin McAtee went round then on the top of Radion. There's Jeffrey Van Buren. Eden Peckman, he's had a really good race, as Eden. I have to say, he's had an interesting season so far, as Eden. When he's been able to race, he's had a bit of bad luck where he had an issue with the Discord server a couple of weeks ago. He's had a 21st place at round 2 at Silverstone, and then he had a 10th place at Imola. Didn't finish last time out at the Nordschleife. There were reasons behind that, but he started outside the top 20 today. He's 15 seconds clear of Tony Manley. What a result this could be for a driver who has just kept his nose clean. The man from Croatia could be about to find a second top 10 result this season. He'd be delighted, I'm sure, with that. But that turquoise Ferrari cracking on. Josip still leading the way. We haven't seen much of him since his fight with Stewart, but he's broken the 1 second gap. As yes, I did think that was Joe Warner taking a interesting route through turn 16 there, but not to worry. He's done no damage to anybody, which is the main element of that. But can Kosic be on his way to a second victory of the season? 12.5 minutes to go. You know, Stewart will be pushing as hard as he can because he'll be looking for his second victory of the season. They both have 1 win apiece. Stewart got his victory at Silverstone in round 2. Josip got his at round 4 in Imola. We have had other race winners this season. Mark Chapman, who's currently in 4th place, he won at round 1 in Zolder. And then Tony Sokolov, who's been our multiple race winner so far in the opening 5 rounds, he won round 3 and he won last week at the Nordschleife. So, you know, and a victory at Bathurst, which was pretty dominant, but his win at Nordschleife was phenomenal. And I think Miroslav Grasic has gone round again, which is a shame. Rich Durham saying that he had a few issues on his end. Looks like he's not been able to get going again. And I'm just looking at what Scott Clark's saying, is that he's trying to find a happy medium for himself at every circuit, but just doesn't seem to be paying off for him. I just feel like he's just having a lot of issues that he's lamenting at the moment. Linus still carrying on. He's 2 laps down at the moment in the BMW. We know he got involved in some issues earlier, but nevertheless, it's still nice to see him back in the championship. We haven't seen him for quite a while, actually. We did see him at round 3 back at Bathurst, but that was it. We haven't seen him at all since then. So his 3rd race of the season, we've got a yellow flag, and I think that is Joe Warner, who's just getting out of everybody's way. So I wonder if he's had a spin maybe and he's just carrying on. Let's have an overview with 9 minutes and 42 seconds to go. Let's have an overview and see where everybody is out on track, and we'll try and flick through the drivers. So Josip Kosic leads by 1.6 seconds over Stuart Packham. 3rd place, 20 seconds back. We've got a fight on our hands for the podium between Daniel Danu and Mark Chapman. We'll just keep an eye on this as they come over the top of Eau Rouge. See if the Ferrari driver is close enough to the back of the McLaren. I think the answer to that is no. But it's the closest he's been. So we'll cut back to that fight in a little while. Rover Rakatamanga, great job in 5th place at the moment. Good result if he can hold on to it. Nicola Credan quietly has moved up through the field today. He's not really been involved in the thick of the action, but he's been right there. This will comfortably be his best finish of the season. He's had a 12th, a 14th and a 13th. This is 6th. Great results if he can hold on. There's Tony Sokolov. Don't think he'll mind finishing in 7th place, but it's a little bit of a bump back down to reality for him after his 2 alien victories at Bathurst and the Nordschleife. Martin van Reenen in 8th place. He's had a very quiet session so far, but I don't think he'll be disappointed at all. Steve Hall in 9th place. So after his incident with Jordan earlier on, he has made it back into the top 10. He'll be frustrated with what happened, of course. We don't know exactly how the contact went about, and I'm assuming that there was contact because Steve waited for Jordan earlier in this race. There might not have been. Maybe something else had gone on. Eden Peckman, great drive from this man so far. He's in for a great result. Tony Manley in 11th. Dennis Penders in 12th, but he's got a very angry Jordan Harding trying to get past him for a spot in 12th place. John Wells is 14th after finally having been overtaken by Jordan. 15th is Ross Harris. And then 16th is Kevin McEntee. Those are the only drivers left on the lead lap. However, as you can see, the gap between Kevin and Kosic, who's just crested the hill there, he probably will get lapped in a couple of moments' time. Danny Zaltenbayer, who was on for a top 10 result, he's in 17th position. And he is a bit further back and a lap down. Michael van der Waal, he got caught up in issues earlier. He's 18th at the minute. Jeffrey Van Buren, another one who got caught up in issues. Neil Wright, who's had a couple of knocks with the wall, is in the top 20. Linus, we've already spoken about with his issues. And then 22nd, we currently have Joe Warner on his debut. Miroslav Grasic currently in the pit lane. We've lost Scott Clark. And we've also lost as well Rich Jarram too. So that's where we are at the moment. So I'm going to do my best to try and... Jordan has got past Dennis Penders. There's clearly a orange Mustang in front of a black and red and yellow Ferrari. So we will concentrate our efforts onto the closest fight that is on circuit. See if we can catch up to them. And the game will let me scroll through all the drivers. There it is. 6 minutes remaining for Mark Chapman try and get past the McLaren in front of him. Now, Mark Chapman is no stranger to the podium this season. He knows how to get there, but he's got a very determined driver in front of him who wants to get another podium this season. Ooh, that's a little bit wide from the pair of them. Utilising track limits, that's Steve Hall who's gone round. He's got going at turn 11. But he has just been unlapped. Well, he's just been unlapped by Linus. He should be far enough in front of Edin Peckman, but not to worry. But Mark Chapman, he wants another podium. He's not had one since his race win earlier at the start of the championship, and Danu is looking for his third place. So both of them are looking for the number of top 3 finishes to have to go from a double, effectively from 1 to 2. Still 4 minutes and 42 seconds to go, and I feel that Daniel Danu is just managing this gap quite nicely. The gap at the front between Josip Kosic and Mark, I always keep going to call him Stuart Packham, that seems to extend a little bit more, so I think that those positions, unless there's a mistake now in the next few laps, they are going to be relatively settled. But can Mark Chapman do anything about the car in front of him? It's a big test to try and get past that McLaren. It won't be the end of the world if he doesn't. But I know that he'll want to. And that's the most important thing here, ladies and gentlemen. He will want to. I don't see him close enough to the back of the McLaren. Now, one other fight that might appear in the last few laps is Jordan Harding and Tony Manley. That gap's now 2.5 seconds for 11th place. Come back to that in a lap's time. And then Peckman just shows you how much time he did gain on Steve Hall. He's 6.4 seconds clear, or behind the fellow Ferrari driver. Kevin McAtee cuts the chicane. Stuart Packham has been looking distantly at that BMW in front of him for the whole race, apart from when he rejoined the track after the pit stops. That was the closest time that they had together, and since then it's just like an elastic band, has just stretched out a little bit further. Scrolling through the drivers. Oh, and Mark Chapman has got past Daniel Danu. We didn't see it, but Mark Chapman has squeezed through. Now, I was looking at the radar and I didn't see any change. So it must have literally just happened whilst we were off camera. But the bright green Ferrari has overtaken the dark one, as in the dark green Ferrari, and finds himself on for a podium on what is looking like the penultimate lap. I'm just looking at where Josip Kosic and... Oh no! Oh no, that is a disaster. Daniel Danu, I think, is just disconnected on the penultimate lap. Oh, you are joking. Oh, that is such a shame. Or has he? It says he's there on track. Has it just moved? No, he's there, that's great. I was going to say, he had issues last week. I didn't want him to have more. And people might be thinking, oh, that was a bit of a reaction from me, Jack. I don't want to see anyone get disconnected from a race. It's always a shame. But when there's such a good fight on for for what is the last space on the podium. I want to see that actualised. I want to see it happen. We are going on to the final lap then. Josip Kosic has just got 4.3 miles of racetrack left to take a race victory, his second of the season. But Daniel Danu, he also has 4.3 miles to try and get his podium place back. We'll ride on board with him as we come through La Source, which is this right-hander here, down through the gears. It looks like Chapman's just got the advantage at the moment. It's very wide from the Ferrari. He might be just a bit too far clear, I think. What about Jordan Harding and Tony Manley? Yeah, 0.6 of a second. So that battle's on for 11th place. I'm just watching where Josip is, because I will catch him as he comes into the final set. And Jordan Harding doing his best. He's going to try and throw some moves onto the Italian. But he's got one more lap to try and get past. But he has closed the gap down to the Italian. And that is Stuart Packham round on the final lap. The man who was running in second place. It's a good job he had a massive gap. But he has gone off the road. Mark Chapman still holding on. I'm just trying to scroll over to this man, because he's led outside of the pit stops pretty much from start to finish. He's been absolutely fantastic. And despite his best efforts, Stuart Packham has spun around, and it's given Josip Kosic another victory this season here at Spa-Francorchamps. Great result for him. There is the recovering Packham, who did get damage to his car as well. But I want to return to the garage. I just want to cut to this fight here. I want to be scrolling through all the drivers. Is Danu going to make a move for the inside? I don't think he's going to make it. So it will be Mark Chapman, who is... Oh, he's tried as the Spaniard, but he's going to kick himself. He's missed out. It will be Mark Chapman then. Well done to him. He's going to take third. Daniel Danu will be fourth. Great result from this man. He's just about held on from Nicola Gradano. He's had a really good race. But well done to the Frenchman. He will be fifth. Great effort from Nicola Gradan to come home in sixth. Tony Sokolov in seventh position. Martin van Reenen will be the next driver to come across the line. Let's go into the drivers area. Let's do that. There we go. Straight on to Martin. He is going to finish in eighth position. A nice quiet race for Martin, but good points on the board. He's going to have Neil Wright finishing just behind him. Tony Manley did get overtaken by Jordan Harding in the end, so the Italian will finish 12th. Just trying to skip my way through, because I believe it will be Steve Hall in 9th place. Linus Littrix just following him. Arguably one of the drives of the day here, Edin Peckman. Great effort, 10th place in the end. He'll be chuffed to bits with that. Jordan has crossed the line. There's Tony Manley. Dennis Penders in the background crossing the line too. We've just got, I think it's John Wells to come round the final corner. There he is. And that is that. So, well, Josip Kosic is your race winner for the second time this season. Stuart Packham had a crash on the final lap, but got away with it. Third place in the end went the way of Mark Chapman after a fantastic fight between himself and Daniel Danu, who ended up fourth. Rover Rakatamanga is fifth, with Nicola Gradan in sixth place. Tony Sokolov and Martin van Reenen are seventh and eighth. Steve Hall and Edin Peckman, 9th and 10th place. I think Edin Peckman will be my driver of the day. Jordan Harden outside the top 10 in the end with 11th place. What could have been without that incident earlier. Tony Manley in 12th with Dennis Penders and John Wells, the last drivers on the lead lap. Ross Harris recovered to 15th with Kevin McEntee in 16th, only 2 tenths behind the Lamborghini driver in the end. Danny Zoutenbayer is 17th with Michael van der Waal in 18th. Jeffrey Van Buren in 19th with, of course, Neil Wright in 20th. Linus Littrix in 21st. We also had our debutant of Joe Warner finishing in 22nd. We had Miroslav Grasic have a few issues out there in 23rd. Sadly for Scott Clark, he's down in 24th place. And the DQ went the way of Rich Duran, but we think that this might be to do with technical issues. Well, a lot of action tonight. Quite a lot going on out on circuit. It was really nice to cover that today. It's been really pleasing to see the drivers out there having a good fight. We will be back, of course, next week. There isn't many races left in this championship, to be honest. We are in the business end of the season. After this, obviously today we've just done round 6 at Spa. The next race, round 7, and I said it before during the stream, my favourite circuit, my local circuit at Alton Park. I'm really excited to see the cars race around there. Suzuka will be the race after that. The penultimate round is at Red Bull Ring, and then Kyalami will host round 10. It's a 2-hour race, day to night cycle. So that is all of the action then from the ACC Race Nation League. It's been really fantastic to commentate on this evening, and so far through the season it's been really competitive action. A lot to talk about for the drivers in the post-race discussion, no doubt, in terms of the issues that they face and the challenges out there on circuit. But from myself, Jack Norrington, and from the ACC Race Nation League, thank you very much for watching, and wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one, and see you for the next race.